Hey everyone, this is Riddle Hacker AJ Raven, and the usual setup that I use to do my recaps and reviews of Animal Kingdom. Yeah, I ran into a few issues, so this is a new setup for now. So, yeah, please excuse. Yeah, just please forgive me. Anyway, I'm back with my recap and review of Animal Kingdom season number 4, episode number 12, which is titled Ghosts. And for the FTC stuff, I was provided a free review screener of Animal Kingdom season number 4, episode number 12, Ghosts. The opinions I share are my own, so let's get to it. This episode opens up with Janine just sitting beside Colin's grave, and she's crying. So, of course, it's quite surprising to see Janine show so much humanity, and you can see that she had to go through a lot in order to become the version that we see in the present timeline. Anyway, Jed's wife comes in and she tells Janine that does she know whether she's having a son or a daughter, and Janine is like, I don't know, I haven't even been to the doctor once. So Jed's wife is like, you know what, Janine, you need to come back inside because it's getting dark and the coyotes will be out soon. So then we reach the present timeline and we see that Janine is laying on the ground and she is waking up from some sort of, I guess, a hangover or not. And turns out that because she wasn't present in the previous episode because she was partying. She was partying on a yacht, and yeah, now she's ready to go back to her boys and do the job that she wants to do. So over at the Cody house, we see that Pope's woken up. He gets his gun. He goes into Smurf's room and he notices that Smurf isn't back yet. She didn't even sleep in her room now. There is a scene where Pope ends up sniffing Smurf's perfumes, and considering how creepy Pope is, I think he sniffed her perfumes because the smell reminded him of her. So that's my take on why he ended up sniffing those perfumes, because those perfumes are what Smurf smells like to Pope. So over at Craig's, Ren wakes up and she was fast asleep when Craig came back home, and she wakes up, she notices Craig in the bathroom and he's getting ready for the job, and Ren tells Craig to be careful. Then over at the Cody residence, Angela is still there, Joshua's there. Joshua and Pope are getting ready for the job, and Angela comes in and Angela is like, I baked a cake, I can warm that up for you. And Pope is like, no thank you, and we need to go for the job. And Joshua is like, do you think Smurf will be there for the job? And Pope is like, yeah, she will be. And Angela then says that you don't have to go, and Pope looks at her directly and Pope's like, I have to. So over at Deran and Adrienne's, Adrienne has a lot of questions for Deran about where they're going to go, where they're going to live, which country are they going to run to. So apparently they're going to Indonesia or Syria or countries like those far away. And Deran is like, you know what? We'll talk about it after I'm done with the job. And so he walks away. And I'm like, at least kiss Adrienne goodbye, Deran. So over in the past, we see that Janine doesn't want to continue living in the farm. So she notices a car that Jed has, and she asks Jed how much he needs for the car. And Jed is like 10 grand. And Janine is like, I can only give you 500. And Jed even says that now that Colin is dead, as next of kin, Jed is owed what Colin made. And Janine is like, don't you think that Colin would have wanted the money to go to his child? And Jed then comes very creepingly close to Janine, and he's like, yeah, you're right. Anyway, I'll sell you the car for 500. And Janine is like, you know what? For that amount of money, make sure you fill up the tank. So over at the Cody's residence, Craig and Deran are here, and they ask Pope where Smurf is, and Pope is like, Smurf's back. And they're like, how did she look like? And he said, Smurf looked like Smurf. So Smurf is getting ready. She has on these gold chains. She has on her best outfit, and you know that Smurf means business. So she ends up spilling all of her medicines into the toilet. However, she ends up laying a few pills on the bathroom counter. I have no idea why she did that, but we ended up finding out soon enough. So she notices Angela's cake on the counter and she ends up throwing the cake. She even washes the tray. She doesn't want Angela in the house, and it's clear. So she's looking at the house and they're ready to go. And Pope is like, Smurf, are we ready? And Smurf looks at Angela and Smurf is like, yeah, I'm ready. So before they can get into the car, Smurf wants to ride the truck, and then she orders Joshua to drive the truck, and that takes Pope by surprise, so Pope ends up driving the car in which Deran and Craig are also riding with him. During the car ride, Smurf ends up talking to Joshua. She asks Joshua what Craig ended up naming his son, and Joshua is like, he named him Nick, and Smurf is like, what kind of name is Nick? And Joshua answers by saying that it's I have no idea, and Smurf's like, you know what, it was probably Ren's idea. And then she asks Joshua whether or not Craig can be a good father, and Joshua is like, I don't know, I didn't have a father, good or bad. And Smurf is like, you know what, Craig didn't have one either. And then she talks about how there's books for everything, and she wants Joshua to buy Craig a book about being a good father. And this is where the conversation, this scene, she ends up mentioning that Adrienne has been talking to the police, and Joshua is like, does Deran know? And Smurf is like, yes, Deran knows, and he's been talking to the police for a very long time. However, Smurf doesn't think that Deran is strong enough to take care of business to kill Adrienne. And she asks Joshua, baby, do you think that Deran is strong enough? And we don't get an answer. And I'm like, Smurf, really? With only one more episode left, you really had to tell that to Joshua? Like, I don't want Joshua killing Adrienne. Then they reach the place from where they're going to dig into the bunker, and this is where she tells the rest of the boys to start digging, and she ends up taking Pope with her. And over in the past, we see that Jed is just standing outside Smurf's room, and he's looking creepingly at her while she is asleep. So the boys end up digging, and it's not a very long job. I think they ended up digging quite quickly. So while they're on their way to the farm, Pope asks Smurf who these people are, and Smurf is like, these are the people I used to work with, these are old friends. And Pope is like, if we needed a distraction, why couldn't we just burn a field? Why couldn't we just do something, like break the fence or something? And Smurf is like, these people are preppers, they are paranoid. If anything weird happens, the first thing they're going to do is make sure that the bunker is safe. So that's why they have to personally go there and distract them. So she makes Pope park the car near a tree, and this is where she ends up telling Pope that his father is buried near the tree, and this takes Pope by surprise. And this is also where she ends up telling Pope that Jed is his uncle, and next to him is Pope's cousin Odin. So the boys are in the bunker, and they're quite happy about it. They end up blocking the cameras, and they have to move quickly. So while they're distracting Jed ends up showing pictures of Colin to Pope, and Smurf has never showed a picture of Colin to Pope because she didn't have any, and also because Smurf tells Jed that, Jed, don't you remember, I ended up getting away from here quite quickly. So over at the house, Angela goes into Smurf's room, and she ends up wearing her red jacket. And she ends up going to the bathroom, and remember those pills that Smurf laid out on the counter? So they were meant for Angela, and Angela notices Smurf's plan, and she curses Smurf out, and she ends up throwing the pills into the toilet. However, as they flush away Angela, because she's a recovering addict, she couldn't help herself, so she ended up reaching into the toilet and taking out a few pills. And I was like, you know what? Even though the scene is gross, I can understand it. It makes sense. So Deran and the rest end up finding gold, and this is what they came here for. So in the past, Janine is like, Jed, is the car fixed? I need the car, I need to go away. And Jed is like, the car is in better condition than I initially thought, so I won't be able to sell it to you for only $500. And this is where Jed ends up trying to force Smurf to do sexual favors for him. And I'm like, you know what? At first I thought that Jed was just creepy, like Pope, how Pope can get into your personal space. However, Pope isn't the type of person who will sexually assault you, but Jed is that type of person. And you know what? When I saw this scene, I was like, whatever Smurf is going to do to him in the present timeline, he deserves it. So Janine tries to take out her gun, but Jed is quicker. He takes out the gun from her purse and he throws it away. So Janine has no choice but to agree to Jed's terms. However, as she's trying to get him to get aroused, this is where she ends up hurting him, and she runs away. However, Jed runs after her, and it's a very, very, very tense scene because Jed's running after her, Janine's running, Jed's wife comes in, and Jed actually tries to strangle Janine. However, Jed's wife is able to save Janine, and this is where Janine, because of all the stress that she encounters, she is forced into childbirth. So Angela is taking a bath, and you know that they were going to do that death by OD in the tub scene. And Angela actually ends up, she's sleeping and she actually ends up drowning. However, she's able to wake up and she's able to save herself. And she also cries because she regrets what she ended up doing. So Jed ends up asking what happened to Julia, and Smurf is like, Julia's dead, she OD'd, and yeah, they're just distracting him. Smurf has no intentions to be friendly with Jed. So before they end up going, Craig notices this gun and he takes it away with him. And I'm like, maybe we'll see him using that gun in the finale. Let's see. So she wants Jed to go to the bunker because she wants ammunition. While Jed is trying to force the door of the bunker open, this is where Janine takes out her gun and she shoots Jed. Again, because of the type of person Jed is, he's someone who sexually assaults other women. He's someone who beats his own wife. I was like, you know what? I don't feel bad for your death. So the rest of Jed's boys also return. He has 3 sons, and this is where the shootout happens. Smurf gets hurt, and Pope ends up saving Smurf's life. And Smurf is like, why did you save me, Pope? Why? So they end up meeting the rest of the boys, and it's clear that Smurf has lost it. She wanted to die during this mission. This was her last mission, and she wanted to go out in a blaze of glory. She doesn't want to die in a hospital, and she ends up forcing Deran to give her his gun. And she ends up forcing Pope to shoot her, and she's like, Pope, if you don't shoot me, I'm going to shoot you. And she actually does shoot Pope. The bullet grazes his ear, and he ends up bleeding. But then again, I mean, we all knew what was going to happen, and lo and behold, before that scene happens, we see Janine ended up giving birth, and she gives birth to Julia, and then Andrew follows. And like I said, lo and behold, Joshua's the one who ends up killing Smurf. And yes, Smurf is dead, y'all. Smurf is dead. Now, I do know about certain fans who were like, if Smurf dies, we are not going to watch this show ever again. And I'm like, I can understand where you're coming from. Personally, I didn't think that Smurf was going to die. I thought that she was going to die in the next season. And also because I thought, because of poetic justice, I wanted Smurf to live long enough to see Joshua take everything away from her. But now that Smurf is dead, I don't think Joshua is going to get the satisfaction of taking everything away from Smurf. Neither he's going to get the satisfaction, and neither we as viewers are going to get the satisfaction of him taking everything away from Smurf while she's alive and she's unable to do anything about it. But yeah, Smurf is dead. I mean, why did the writers do this? Did Ellen Barkin wanted to leave the show? I don't know. So they end up taking Smurf to their house, and this is where Joshua takes control, and he's like, you need to call the doctor, you need to make sure that the death certificate says that Smurf died of cancer, and we need to get rid of the truck. But Pope ended up leaving the truck at the prepper's house on Ed's Jed's territory, and you know that the preppers are going to come after them, so they have to prepare for that, they have to prepare for revenge. So Craig goes home and he ends up taking comfort in Ren. And Angela goes and she talks to Joshua and she's like, Joshua, are you okay? And Joshua is like, I'll be fine. And also Angela tells Joshua that she was impressed by the way he ended up handling the situation. Now his uncles know that they need him. And again, with Smurf dead, how's this show going to progress? Like, one of the basic tensions of this show was the tension between Joshua and Smurf, and now it's just another show with these 3 men that have mommy issues and their nephew who's a psychopath. So, I mean, I liked watching this show because it focused on Smurf. It focused on a strong, complex woman. But yeah, let's see what happens in the 5th season. So Deran goes back to home to Adrienne, and Adrienne's like, are you okay? And Deran's like, we are never going to come back. We're just going to leave. And I'm like, with Joshua knowing what Adrienne did, I won't be surprised if Adrienne ends up dying. I mean, oh no. So we have a scene where Smurf ends up naming her children. She names the girl Julia. She names the son Andrew because that's what Colin wanted to name their son. And the episode ends with Pope looking at Smurf's dead body and kissing her on the forehead. And this is where the episode ends. And we have another episode left. So I have no idea what's going to happen. I haven't watched the previews. Oh, I'll be doing a written review of this for the Geekiary. The link to that will be down in the comment section below. Let me know what you thought of Animal Kingdom season number 4, episode number 12. Were you expecting Smurf to die? Were you expecting Smurf to be killed by Joshua? Or did you think that Cancer was going to do her in? Yeah, I mean, what are they going to do in the 5th season? Let me know down in the comment section below. And until next time, stay happy, stay safe, stay blessed. And I'll see you guys later. Bye.